Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3330. Sorry. Today's date is the 7th of February 2025. It's been almost like a night at 10 p.m. Okay, we directly jump into the question. Let's go. All right, yeah. Question is, what can the pattern in the nature world teach us about structure of the universe? What can pattern in the nature world teach us about structure of the universe? Wow, that's like this question is like really deep and really like a scientific thing. I am not really sure that am I able to give the proper answer regarding about this question. Okay, yeah, because the information that I have is like really less, but I'm trying. Okay, let's try. Okay, as also the answer that I might gonna tell about this question is somewhat right, somewhat wrong. Okay, yeah. Ho, ho, neto. Somewhat right, somewhat. Okay, it's like really difficult to like. Oh yeah. First of all, let's. Where is this question came from? All right, yeah. So a couple of days ago, I was actually watching the Leonardo da Vinci. Sorry, the Demons of Leonardo. Okay, it's a web series, by the way. This web series is actually based on Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, yeah. If you don't really know who is Leonardo da Vinci, he is a really amazing person. By the way, he is the person who paint the Mona Lisa painting, which is a really famous painting in the world. Okay, yeah. And he is not just a painter. No, he is like a master of multiple things. He is like a really incredible person. You just Google it, you just found out how amazing is this guy. By the way, I was actually watching while I was watching this web series. I was like a bit really influenced by the thought process of Leonardo, like the way that he think, the way that he understand the possibilities and the consequences was like such a thing that I am like I think that kids like my brain is not really able to understand this thing. It's a really crazy thing, dude. Really crazy thing. Okay, so I was really influenced by the thought process of Leonardo. Okay, and I wanted to think like him. I wanted to think that how does Leonardo thinks. Okay, so I went to the chat GPT and asked that suggest me such a question so that I would think like Leonardo da Vinci. And this is one of those questions. The question says, what can the pattern in the nature's world teach us about structure of the universe? Okay, yeah. A structure of the universe and pattern. Okay, yeah. Um I'm trying to understand this question. Okay, yeah. First of all, let's just understand the structure of the universe. What is exactly the structure of the universe? Well, okay, yeah, structure of the universe. Um, have you seen the galaxy? Okay, it's a spiral shape, right? Yeah. Have you seen the hurricane? Okay, yeah. Like if you see hurricane from top view, okay, yeah, it kind of like look like spiral. Okay, yeah. Have you seen like if like there is a water there is a basin who fill with complete water and you just turn on the tap and water kind of like a rotate and kind of like a went out from that nozzle and things like that. It follows kind of like a some spiral pattern. Okay, yeah. Do you seen that? Like you probably seen it. Okay, yeah. So is it kind of like a some structure of the universe? I'm not really sure. Okay, yeah. I'm kind of like seeing that particular shape in multiple forms. Okay, the universe of the sorry, the shape of Milky Way, the shape of hurricane from top view. the shape of water which actually follow when the tap is open, okay, in the basic things like that, okay, yeah, flow of water, okay. So how do I kind of like simply understand the universe, the structure of the universe through that thing? I am not really sure, okay, yeah, but I'm trying to understand, okay, yeah. In the center of the galaxy there is a black hole, okay. In the Milky Way galaxy we have kind of like a simply black hole, we called as a Sagittarius A black hole, is it right? Like I'm not really sure, but Sagittarius is the planet, by the way. Let me just Google it, okay, yeah. What is the center of Milky Way galaxy? Okay, so yeah, they say supermassive black hole called Sagittarius A. Yeah, I'm really right. Okay, yeah, Sagittarius A. So there is a black hole in the center of the Milky Way galaxy. It's called uh, Sagittarius A. Okay, the black hole is actually meant to be suck everything, like a not like a basically this like a light, like not even light could kind of like a something just pass through it. No, like black hole is meant to be suck everything, like the planets and stars and things and that. Okay, yeah. So do you consider that key in the near billion future ahead, that that kind of like a something like black hole will suck the entire galaxy? I am not really sure, okay, yeah. But probably that black hole represent to be kind of like a something suck the thing, okay, yeah, okay, yeah. Same thing goes with the galaxies, okay, sorry, same thing goes with the hurricane, okay, yeah. Have you seen hurricane from the top view? Like a basically it kind of like a replicate a spiral shape, okay, yeah. But in the hurricane, the circle, basically the center of that particular hurricane is not that dangerous. By the way, it's a kind of like it's only one of the safest spot, one of the safest spot in the kind of like a assembly hurricane. What do you mean by that? So basically, when the hurricane is actually happened, the edges of the hurricane are kind of like a simply so crazy. Like the wind speed is almost like a 300, 400 kilometer per hour, and which is like a really fast. Okay, yeah. But if you went to the center of the hurricane, you feel kind of like a something very calm. Everything is really calm. Like basically just yeah. So, but there is another thing. Is this thing that key the edges of the hurricane is kind of like a something sucking up everything, like a basically whatever in the path, like the trees and house and cars and everything went fly. Okay, yeah, and when they fly, everything is gathered at the center. Okay, yeah, everything is gathered at the center. Like basically, is this thing if the weight of that particular object, like take an example, a car. Okay, the weight of the car is really heavy, then probably it would kind of like a follow the centrifugal path, and it will kind of like a something fly over at somewhere else. It will not put into the center. But mostly some of the debris of kind of like a something hurricane is actually collected at the center. I'm not really sure, by the way, but I think it might be. Okay, I think it might be. Okay, yeah, because hurricane is actually following the path as a kind of like a something centrifugal force. Okay, yeah, like a basically wind is collecting all those debris, and everything is kind of like a something collecting all those debris and follows through the wind through the centrifugal force. Okay, yeah, and which is actually kind of like a something, the wind is too much so that it kind of like a something hold it to follow that particular circular path. But if the weight of that particular object is really much, then probably that that weight is kind of like equivalent to create the escape velocity of that particular hurricane, and it will kind of like a went away. Okay, yeah, like example is that bulldozer. Let's take a bulldozer which is really heavy. Okay, yeah. So because of the edges of the universe or edges of the hurricane is really strong, it could lift up the bulldozer, but the weight of the bulldozer is really high, so that it would kind of like a something because of the weight and because of the centrifugal force, it create the escape velocity, and that escape velocity is a kind of like a some help that bulldozer to kind of like a something throughout somewhere, not in the center, throughout in somewhere, not in the center of the that particular hurricane. Probably, I'm not really sure, but yeah, this is what it is. Okay, yeah. But both the example, okay, yeah. In the Milky Way galaxy, black hole is kind of like a something work as a kind of like a something sucking things. Okay, yeah, probably, I'm not really sure, yeah, because like a grab black hole is not meant to be suck all the time, but it just kind of like a something do kind of like just try to think hypothetical perspective, na, yeah. Yeah, somewhat, okay. Same thing happened with the hurricane, okay, like in the center it's not kind of like a suck, but kind of like all the debris and everything is a kind of like a something just damage, yeah. It's probably, yeah, I'm kind of like something talking about the average point of perspective. Still the information that I have is a just kind of like a really rough, I'm not really sure is it right or wrong, okay, yeah. Same thing happened with the kind of like a somebody on the basin, okay. If you have a basin, like you went to the kitchen, there is a basin, okay, yeah. First of all, you just turn the tap on and basically collect the entire water, and basically turn off the that particular cap, and basically the water is actually following the circular thing, and it went away from that basin, okay. It followed that particular circular path. It kind of like a something considered as the same, because the center of that particular shape is kind of like a sucking up the entire water, okay, yeah. So how do I kind of like a something understand regarding about this structure of the universe, regarding about these three example? Structure, I am not really sure, okay. I just understand this, but uh, I'm not really sure. Okay, yeah. Like, what's the structure of the universe? Yeah, what exactly is this thing? How like what is the structure of the universe? I'm not really sure. Like, probably I'm gonna say is that structure of the universe might be the shape of the universe, but like basically the universe is far big, far big. Like basically, like our thought process are kind of like a really less to think about how much big it is universe, okay, yeah, because universe is like it's actually bigger than our thoughts, okay, yeah. Like basically simple word that I wanted to say is that bigger than our thoughts, okay, yeah. Like basically if I have kind of like a something really a spaceship who is kind of like a something went to the light speed, okay, yeah. Light speed is a kind of like a something one of the highest speed in our universe, okay, yeah. If I try to escape our universe, it will take me millions of light years. Light years, I'm talking about light years, okay, yeah. So it was like a so it was kind of like a something very crazy, dude. Yeah, it was like a like basically this thing, all the power that we have on all the speed that we have, we won't be escape this thing. So probably the ages of the universe is almost like a maybe it's just like we can't even like we don't really knew it, okay, yeah. It's like I don't know is it exist or not, okay, yeah. So so basically how do I supposed to kind of like explain about structure of the universe, okay, yeah. It's like kind of like something is beyond my thought process, okay, yeah. But probably this thing there is a some certain thing that I wanted to talk, okay, yeah, regarding about patterns who kind of like a teach us regarding about structure of the universe. I would kind of like consider as a kind of like a something things which is actually common, not like things which actually common means like that ki common in planet earth. Like okay, what's the common, okay, let's just example that I mentioned before, the shape of the Milky Way galaxy spiral, the shape of the hurricane from the top view spiral, the shape of the water who is kind of like a following the flow and go to the center, things like that in the basin from the top spiral, okay, yeah. So basically is this thing that kit follows kind of like a particular that shape, and I might say this is kind of like a something somewhat constant probably, okay, yeah. Because if I'm gonna kind of like a thinking about everything point of perspective, that spiral shape is kind of like a something I seen in multiple times in multiple things, okay, yeah. Like basically have you seen the solar system? Like a sun is in center and entire planets are rotated around it, which is also kind of like a create somewhat spiral shape, Is it right spiral shape? I'm not really sure. It's a but it kind of like a rotate around it. Okay, yeah. Same thing happened with Earth and Moon. Okay, yeah. Like Moon is actually rotate around our Earth. Okay, yeah. Is it spiral? I'm not really sure, but like yeah, basically is this thing if I kind of like a um, something is this thing that key like a bucket of water. Okay, yeah, like let's say bucket of water, and I try to rotate that particular water. It kind of like a rotate around my axis, but water will not gonna throw because the centrifugal force and things like that. So is it spiral? I'm not really sure. Okay, yeah, but these are kind of like some sort of shapes that I seen, not only in here but as also in kind of like a something in atomic level too. Like example is this thing, the nucleus and proton. Electrons are rotate around the electron and proton. Okay, no, sorry. Electron is a kind of like something valence shell. So yeah, it's kind of like a orbit around the proton and nucleus. Sorry, proton and nucleus. Okay, yeah, and it's also kind of like a create some sort of spiral shape. So probably this shape is kind of like I seen multiple times. Okay, yeah, like in the atomic level, in kind of like a something in our normal life, in the space and things like that. So is it kind of like a create some sort of kind of like a something just connection? I'm still not really sure. Okay, yeah, because I think I don't really have that much answer regarding about this thing. Why does kind of like a create this particular shape and this kind of like a stuff? I am still not really sure. Okay, yeah, but I think it might be kind of like something understanding things, but still I'm not sure. Like I say this thing multiple times. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. This is a kind of like some spiral shape. Okay, yeah. Now there is another shape that I seen multiple times. Okay, yeah. A pattern. Okay, yeah. What's a pattern? Okay, yeah. A pattern means like that a particular shape that you seen which is actually connected, and it kind of like a create a loop. Okay, yeah. Loop. Okay, like do you get it? Okay, if you don't really get it, example, there is a kind of like a something the a circle. Okay, yeah, let's say kind of like a something, just draw a circle from the top view, and basically another circle draw but which actually connected. Okay, yeah, at the edges of another circle. Okay, so you draw multiple circle which is actually connected on the edge, which kind of like create the pattern. Okay, do you understand? Get it the pattern? Okay, yeah. I seen that particular pattern multiple times. Okay, example, waves. Okay, ocean wave, or kind of like a river wave, or like any like a water waves. Okay, yeah. The waves are kind of like a create the pattern. Have you seen the kind of like a something? It kind of like a create. It went up, it went down, and it went up. It went down, and it will kind of like a went up. Okay, yeah. Sometimes the kind of like a something something that kind of like a pattern is somewhat bigger, somewhat slower, but it kind of like a equivalent most of the time. Oh yeah, basically is this thing. There is a one way which kind of like a something. If I'm gonna say, okay, so uh, let me kind of like tell you regarding about the wavelength. Okay, yeah. So what's the wavelength? Okay, first of all, consider the wave which is actually in the ocean and things like that. All right, yeah. So basically this thing wave went up. Okay, yeah, and then it went down. Okay, yeah, and it went up. Okay, yeah. So you kind of like following that particular path which is actually created the S pattern. Okay, yeah, like basically have you seen the S, which is like a basically just a horizontal, not vertical, the horizontal S. Okay, yeah, this kind of like something S pattern. Okay, yeah. So that S pattern, like when it start and when it end, that called wavelength. Okay, that is called wavelength, like basically how much length it is. Okay, yeah. So basically when the water in the waves, like in the kind of like ocean waves, the waves are kind of like a went up, went down, and it kind of like a something start at somewhere which end at somewhere. So it kind of like a create that particular length that is called wavelength. Okay, yeah. And that wavelength actually depend on how kind of like a deep is your wave, or how kind of like a like it's depend on multiple things. Okay, yeah, do you get it? Okay, yeah. I seen that particular wave in multiple times. Okay, yeah, multiple times. Okay, yeah. Mostly in waters, but let's just talk through it. Okay, yeah. So wave in the ocean. Okay, you seen that thing? Okay, yeah. There is a kind of like there is a water. Okay, yeah, you take the water at kind of like glass at somewhere. Okay, yeah. water need to be kind of like a rest, means like that there is nothing really, the water is not should supposed to be moved, nothing really at all. Okay, and then what should you supposed to do? You put the drop into that particular perfect water, it kind of like create the ripples. Okay, yeah, around it, around that particular drop, like when the water drop is kind of like a just drop the particular water drop, and basically it kind of like a create that particular ripple which is exactly look like waves. Okay, yeah, which is exactly look like waves. Okay, yeah, now get it. Okay, get it the water. Okay, yeah, now like a sound. Okay, yeah, basically let's take a sound. Okay, sound is also kind of like a using this wave thing. Okay, yeah, what's the wave thing? Like a things that I mentioned, the S curve. Okay, the S pattern kind of like a thing. Audio is a kind of like a doing the same thing. Okay, yeah, but we can't see the audio, so basically it's a kind of like a something we just don't really understand it is. Okay, yeah, but if I wanted to see the audio, means like that the wave is a kind of like a something that horizontal S. Okay, yeah, so what do you mean by that? Okay, so basically this thing, whatever the song that you are actually hearing, or whatever kind of like a, some things that you are actually hearing on the YouTube platform, it kind of like a create some sort of audios in your headphone and things like that. Okay, that kind of like a something audio has a kind of like a something just a waves. Okay, how it's a very difficult to represent. Okay, um okay, are you editor? Okay, like are you editor means like video editor. Okay, yeah, might be like a video editor, might be understand this thing. Okay, so basically this thing like any editor, yeah, like just I don't know, yeah, like basically I'm just telling you my experience regarding about stuff. Okay, yeah, I usually edit my video. I am a YouTuber by the way, so I am edit my videos. Okay, yeah, so when I edit my video, I put the audio file into my timeline. Okay, yeah, and when I zoom my audio file, like a zoom means like that I kind of like a zoom my timeline so that I could see the every frame and every beats. Okay, yeah, so basically this thing, if I zoom, I just kind of like a zoom like a ultimate level of zoom, I seen that particular wave. Okay, literally I could see that particular wave in my kind of like a Premiere Pro files. Okay, audio files. Okay, basically if you are kind of like a music composer, you also zoom your kind of like a some audio timeline, you could see that particular waves, like just zoom it. Okay, just ultimate zoom. Okay, then you see that particular waves. Okay, and that waves is actually change regarding about pitch of the sound. Okay, what's the pitch of the sound? Okay, if I'm saying that is called kind of like a something the wavelength from kind of like a something which kind of like a so tiny, means like that it's a very tiny, so it kind of like a create so much depth in the kind of like a curve. Okay, so it kind of like a something just it's kind of like irritating, like it's something that I don't know, like do you understand? It's a kind of like a pitch. Okay, now I'm kind of like a create another sound which is like boom, boom, boom. Okay, so in this particular sound, have you kind of like understand the kind of like something the something like the difference between pitch and boom? Okay, pitch and boom. Okay, so that sound is kind of like a follow the same pattern. Okay, like basically this kind of like a sound is somewhat kind of like the wavelength of that particular audio is a small or high or kind of like something, but it kind of like always follow that S curve. Okay, that S curve. Okay, it start like a horizontal S curve, like it start and then it end at somewhere. Okay, it I seen that particular thing in the wave, I seen that particular thing in that water droplet river ripples. Okay, I seen that particular thing in the audio. Okay, now I also seen that thing in the light. Okay, what's the light? Okay, okay, so light we could see, like basically is this thing, I seen the light, I seen the sun, I seen the sun. Okay, but what exactly is this light? Okay, like what is exactly kind of like a bright up my face, like if I turn on the light, why I see the everything, like what is actually emitting, what exactly is this thing? Okay, it's a kind of like simply photon. Okay, like basically is this thing that when you turn on the light, there is a kind of like a trillions of photons are emitted from your light bulb and things like that, and it would kind of like a something strike at surface, and it kind of like a come back to your eyes and things like that from all the direction. It happens so fast, like the speed of light. Okay, so everything is kind of like a something just feel like that it instantly happened. Okay, yeah. But if you are kind of like a something seeing that particular thing in the light speed, you seen that particular light photons which is kind of like a emit from the light bulb, which kind of like a reflect on the surface, then it kind of like a came to your eyes, you could see that everything. Okay, if you kind of like a see that everything in kind of like a light speed, then you could see that, but we can't do that. Okay, by the way, the light photon, just consider as a light photon, like basically everything that you are actually seeing and everything is because of the light photon. Like there is a kind of like some light particle. Okay, it's a very tiny thing. Okay, yeah. Like you can't even understand how much tiny it is. It's a kind of like somebody just, okay, you just fuck up your mind. It's a very tiny, but that is kind of like somebody just photons. Okay, yeah. So like we are kind of like seeing this particular light is because of that photon thing. All right, yeah. So basically this thing, that photon is didn't really kind of like went directly. No, like went directly means like that key, like if I turn on the light, okay, yeah, the photon didn't really went directly to the surface and things like that. No, it kind of like a following the kind of like a something just a S curve. Like basically the light photon is kind of like a something just go ups and downs, ups and down, ups and downs. Okay, yeah, and it kind of like a simply create that particular S curve, that horizontal S curve. Okay, yeah. How do I know? Like how do I see? Okay, you won't be able to see. Probably it's nothing. Okay, yeah, because like it's like basically if you wanted to see that particular thing, you just have to go to the YouTube, watch a couple of videos, then you might understand what is actually the photon, how it kind of like a travel and things like that. Then you find out kind of like a horizontal S curve. Okay, yeah, you won't be able to see in your naked eyes, you can't. Okay, yeah, but it's a kind of like a something is this thing na, ki when you kind of like somebody following that particular pattern, that I seen that particular S curve. Like I actually watched that particular video, couple of videos on the YouTube platform, and I seen that particular that S curve. Okay, yeah. So that ripples, that kind of like a somebody audio, that light, it's kind of like a somebody following that kind of like a somebody creating that ripple thing, creating that particular wave thing, creating that particular horizontal S thing. Okay, yeah, which is like I seen this particular thing, particular shape multiple times in kind of like some universe, because light is also available in the universe too. Okay, like in the space and things like that. Okay, yeah. Audio, like basically things that you are actually hearing, the audio is kind of like a following that particular horizontal S curve. The ripples, okay, that ripples in the water is also kind of like a creating that horizontal S curve. Okay, yeah, like probably in the ripples you won't be able to see the beneath of that water. Okay, yeah, but it actually creates that beneath of the water, it kind of like a create that particular S curve. Okay, yeah. So basically this thing, what I understand regarding about that particular thing, what I regarding about that pattern, I am really not so sure, but I seen that thing, that particular spiral, that particular horizontal S curve, I seen that particular thing. I'm not really sure what is actually the meaning of that, and why does everything is kind of like a create that particular shape if they move somewhere. I'm not really sure. Okay, yeah. Same thing goes with a snake. Okay, yeah. Like basically is this thing, have you seen the snake who's kind of like a running or walking, or kind of like a, it also kind of like a create that particular horizontal S shape. Okay, it kind of like a create as a wave. Like just you seen a snake now who's kind of like a somebody, like a, I don't know how it kind of like a somebody just do that thing, walk on that particular thing, but it kind of like a create that particular shape, that S thing, horizontal S curve thing. Okay, yeah, it's okay, yeah. And basically not the light, not the audio, like basically every color, every infrared, like basically is this thing, when you press the some sort of button in your remote on your TV, it kind of like a signal, infrared signal. That infrared signal is also kind of like a create that particular horizontal S curve. Like basically the transmitter is actually at the remote, the receiver receiver at your kind of like a television. You click the button, you change the channel change actually happens so fast. but the kind of like a, some the infrared signal, that infrared kind of like a photon is kind of like a moving like a basically going as a kind of like a something that S curve thing, that S thing, horizontal S curve thing. I'm not really sure why this kind of like a shape is existing in this universe, but I seen this thing in the multiple time, multiple things. Okay, yeah. So how do I understand regarding about that structure of the universe, like basically this kind of like somebody is this thing? I am not really sure. I'm not really sure regarding about that, like why I'm seeing that thing. Okay, yeah. It's just like I don't know. Yeah. How do I understand regarding about structure of the universe if I see that particular stuff? Like first of all, now I still not understand what is actually the structure of the universe. It's a very kind of like a stuff that I don't know. Okay, yeah, and I it's a very kind of like a something very weird and very kind of like a things which actually at the kind of like a nature, and I don't know, it might gonna kind of like a somebody associate. Okay, yeah. As also there is also another thing that I wanted to talk. Okay, that I wanted to kind of like a somebody mention. I'm not really sure. Okay, yeah. What is the shape of the planet? Sphere. What is the shape of atom? Sphere. What is the shape of sun? Sphere. What is the shape of the ball? Sphere. Why everything is actually kind of like some sphere? What is the shape of fruit like apple? It's also sphere. The shape of orange? Sphere. It why? The shape of droplet? Sphere. Okay, the shape of uh like um like I don't know, yaar. I seen that particular shape in so many thing, like the shape of fruit, the shape of droplet, the shape of planet, the shape of atom, the shape of proton, the neutron, the electron, the neutrinos, and everything is actually kind of like a shape as sphere. Why? Okay, there are so many shapes like a rectangle, triangle, a square. Like basically, is this thing now in our nature? Okay, yeah, sphere is a kind of like a something seen so many times, like basically rectangle and kind of like a triangle, or all those things are kind of like that we are actually created those shapes, but in these are kind of like a something very less existence in the nature, very less, like a you haven't really seen any kind of like a stuff which is actually triangle, nothing, like a we create kind of like a something just that particular shape for understanding things like that, but in the nature we won't be able to see any kind of like a triangle thing, we won't be able to see any kind of like a rectangle thing, we won't be able to see any square thing, but sphere I seen multiple times. Okay, and which is like a mind boggling, but I do not understand why the sphere is kind of like a essential example. Okay, yeah. um like I'm belong to the India. Okay, yeah, and in India we have roti. Roti is a kind of like a some cuisine. Okay, so how we make the roti? Okay, I'm not gonna tell you the recipe things like that, but I'm gonna tell you regarding about that stuff is related with this example. Okay, yeah. So that roti is actually made by the wheat, gahu. We actually call it as gahu, but in the English we call it as a wheat. Okay, yeah. So what is actually wheat? Wheat is kind of like a simply create that wheat into the atta. Okay, yeah. I'm not really sure the English word for atta, but it's kind of like a powder of wheat. Okay, yeah. So what exactly is this thing that we have to make that atta into kanik? Okay, what's a kanik? I'm still not really sure what is the English word for kanik, but it's a kind of like a something that we put the water into that powder of the wheat, and basically we kind of like a create that particular dough of that particular kind of like a thing. Okay, when that create, we have to make the roti. Okay, the shape of the roti is a kind of like a something like the flat. Okay, flat circle. Okay, flat circle. Okay, so that particular thing we have to create that particular dough. Okay, yeah. So for that dough, what should we supposed to do? We take the particular kanik in your palm of the hand, and we kind of like rotate it. When we rotate it, it kind of like create that particular spear shape. Yeah, it does not create the rectangle shape, it does not create any triangle shape, does not create anything, it create a spear shape. Okay, yeah. And that spear shape is really essential. Okay, yeah. Why does not it create a rectangle? Is because rectangle has the edges, Same thing with the square, same thing with the triangle. It has the edges, and that edges are kind of like a something meant to be to not to kind of like a something create any motions. But sphere is a kind of like a thing which meant to be create the motion. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, we kind of like a rotate that particular dough in your palm of your hand, it create the spheres. Okay, yeah. Same thing happening with our planets. Okay, yeah. The planets are always in motion, always in. Like you don't really know, but Earth is always be in motion. Okay, yeah. And it always kind of like a something motion interact, like there is a gravity interact within the moon and Jupiter and the and kind of like a sun and things like that. So basically it's kind of like a something always there is some sort of motion, and that motion really, if that motion has to be handled, it really required kind of like a some certain shape, and that shape is a spear shape. Is a spear shape. Okay, yeah. What about the droplets? Yeah, like basically why does droplets in the spear shape? It's not actually the spear shape, like there is a kind of like a pointy thing at the top of the things, but basically is this thing that that I'm not like I'm not really sure, but why this kind of like a house spear shape? I don't know, I don't really have any reason. Why does fruit like orange has a spear shape? um Probably is this thing is because of that. Now this shape is a kind of like a something act as a universal shape. I'm not really sure, okay, but it's a kind of like a universal shape because it contain volume inside. Okay, yeah. Without any kind of like a create any edges. Okay, yeah. When it has the edges, then probably that particular shape will kind of like a destroy so easily. Example, okay, yeah. Let's take a kind of like a something banana. Okay, yeah. Banana is not a spear shape. Okay, yeah. It kind of like a something curve. Okay, yeah. But it's a kind of like a something cylindrical but curve. Okay, yeah. That banana is not meant to be live last. Okay, like basically is this thing that banana is kind of like a spoil at somewhere. That banana is kind of like a something, it's not meant to be kind of like a something sustain is longer life, because like the shape is not exist, like a somewhat kind of like a thing is actually happened, that shape will kind of like a destroy because of the volume is kind of like a something different and things like that. You get it? Okay, yeah. Like basically if I kind of like a something throw the banana, it might kind of like a break in half. Okay, yeah. But if I throw the orange at certain particular height, it might not break. It might break, but it's kind of like something is this thing. The breaking point is kind of like a something little less. Example, okay, yeah. Like example is this thing. If I throw the banana from like a from 10 feet, okay, 10 feet from the surface, it might break apart. Okay, yeah. But at 10 feet of if I throw the orange, it might not break. I have to go to the 15 feet, and then at the 15 feet that the shape of that particular orange might break. So basically spear are meant to be kind of like something very rigid space, so that it contain the volume inside it with kind of like a something very safe thing. Okay, yeah. Rectangle, square, triangle is not meant to be kind of like a something rigid space. Okay, yeah. But it's very different. Okay, yeah. Like basically if I'm gonna say that key from like a, if the kind of like something object which is kind of like a something meant to be at the air, then it kind of like a create that particular spear shape. Okay, yeah. At the air means like that what? Okay, yeah. Like earth. Okay, yeah. Is there anything at the bottom? No. Is there anything at the top? No. Is there anything at the side? I think no, nothing at all. Like earth is kind of like a something is in space, there is nothing inside in there. Okay, yeah. Same thing happened with the orange. Okay, yeah. The orange doesn't really have like a, when that orange is actually hanging in the tree, doesn't really have any support from the bottom. It doesn't, like it has support from the top, but it kind of like a, just a branch. Okay, yeah. But it doesn't really have any support. Okay, yeah. So when there is an object which is actually in kind of like a something in less support in all direction, it kind of like a create that particular shape, a spear shape. Okay, yeah. But when it has a support, the rigid body is a triangle. Okay, yeah. What's a triangle? Have you seen the pyramid? Pyramid is a kind of like a, simply one of the coolest example of telling this thing, because if there is a support at the bottom, then the triangle is a kind of like a, simply one of the perfect shape to rigid. Okay, yeah. That's why the pyramid is kind of like a something 4,000 year ago, which is actually built. Still, right now, it exist. Is because of this triangle thing, which is actually very rigid, but it has a shapes. It has kind of like edges, which are not meant to be live last, but it's kind of like a some impact on the bottom, basically it kind of like a giving the support from the all the directions. So kind of like a something that triangle thing is kind of like a something help him to kind of like a sustain that particular thing for very very long period of time. Okay, yeah. But if that particular if the pyramid is in the space or anything, that pyramid will not gonna sustain for very long period of time, because it that shape is not meant to be sustained for longer period of time. Okay, yeah. So do you get it? Okay, so spear are kind of like a something I found this thing in many things, the planet, the moon, the stars, the fruit, the water droplet, everything is like spear. I'm not really sure why. Okay, yeah. I somewhat sure, but it's just like it's a kind of like a something very natural thing. Yeah, pyramid is not natural thing. We actually create the pyramid. Okay, pyramid is not a natural thing. Okay, yeah. But basically in the nature, basically the spear thing is kind of like a something I see multiple times that particular shape. Okay, yeah. And let me tell you one thing now. The kind of like a development of the humans is actually happened because of that particular shape, the wheel, that you understand the wheel. Okay, yeah, the importance of the wheel. Okay, yeah. The when we created that particular circular thing wheel, which is kind of like something very essential for transport, which is also kind of like something help us to carry the load, which is actually also, which is also really help us to kind of like a create the motion, because circle are meant to be kind of like a create the motion or transfer the motion, things like that. The circle. Okay, yeah. Not triangle, not rectangle, not square, no, circle. That's why that circle thing, that spear thing, I found in so many so many times, and so many things in the universe, in the nature. Yeah, I seen that particular thing. Okay, yeah. So how does it kind of like a something understand the structure of the universe? I am not really sure, dude. I'm not really sure. Okay, like basically I associate structure of the universe as a kind of like something shape of the universe. Okay, yeah. And probably I just try to resonate all those example with the universe, with the nature thing. I'm still not really sure what is at least this question, and what is actually the shape of the structure of the universe, and how does pattern is actually interact with it, or how does pattern is to kind of like understand the structure of the universe. I'm still not, like, it's really fucked up my mind. Okay, yeah. Like I'm trying to think like Leonardo, but it's like that na ki I'm not really that smart, or that kind of like a something. You just think that ki I'm not really sure is this thing. What is at least what is the meaning of that? Okay, yeah. So okay, so at this moment I have to end here. It's been almost like a 42 minute I'm talking. Okay, yeah. But it's really great. Like while I was talking, I just kind of like a thinking very wisely regarding about all those shapes and things. Okay, yeah. By the way, wait. There is also shape which is actually available in the nature. A cylinder. What? Okay, yeah. Okay, so not cylindrical, cylindrical. Okay, yeah. So have you seen the cylindrical shape? Okay, like basically it's a kind of like a something, a tube or a pipe, which kind of like a create this cylindrical shape, which is actually found in nature. The branch, the trees, which is actually create a kind of like a something, just a cylindrical shape, right? Yeah. Why does shapes actually exist? Why this kind of like a thing is actually exist, the cylindrical shape? It kind of like a give the like a basically a cylindrical shape are meant to be kind of like a support, right? Yeah. So for the supporting thing, triangle is a kind of like a something one of the best example. So why not trees are kind of like a something look like from the bottom at the tree, bottom of the triangle, they are look like a cylinder. Why? Like basically why nature chose cylinder, uh, cylindrical shape more than triangle shape, because triangle shape are meant to be very rigid. Okay, yeah. Like example is this thing, like consider like there is a tree. Okay, yeah. And instead of that cylindrical that particular, like, what is actually chord? Okay, like basically I'm not really sure the English word for that chord. Chord is a kind of like a something, that cylindrical thing from which is actually connected from the bottom of the tree to the top. Okay, yeah. So remove that thing and put the triangle thing. Okay, yeah. So basically if I put the triangle thing, which is actually very rigid, by the way, like basically if the trees are kind of like a have that triangle thing which is actually very supportive to the kind of like a something tree which is really good, like basically trees will not gonna fall for a very long period of time, and then it will be very rigid. So why nature didn't really why nature didn't really choose the triangle shape instead of cylindrical shape? Well, in the triangle shape there is a kind of like a thing. Okay, in the triangle shape it contain lot of volumes. Okay, like basically is this thing ki, let's say example, there is a tree in front of me. There is a, which tree is this? I'm not, a coconut tree, by the way. Okay, yeah. So this coconut tree has a kind of like a something really has this cylindrical thing. Okay, yeah. So if I just remove that thing and put the kind of like a something, the triangle shape. Okay, yeah, that coconut tree look really weird, right? Yeah. Yeah, it really weird. But what is actually impact on it? Okay, yeah, like if there is a kind of like a something, just the height will not gonna exit. Okay, like height will not gonna exert that much. What do you mean by that? Okay, yeah. So in the cylindrical shape means like that ki the trees are meant to be bent higher. Okay, yeah, which is really essential. Because of that there are multiple trees on the surface of the planet, and for the surviving of the surviving for the trees, it really required the photosynthesis, and photosynthesis always gonna happen because of the available of sunlight. Okay, yeah. Sunlight is really essential because there is lot of trees, and basically each trees really require all those photosynthesis, all those sunlight. So basically all the trees are always wanted to be kind of like a face towards the sun. Okay, yeah. And that cylindrical thing is kind of like a helping to kind of like a stand out in other trees and basically get more sunlight as they want. So that's why nature are kind of like a select the cylindrical shape instead of triangle shape. Okay, yeah, because if I put the triangle shape, then basically is this thing that trees will not gonna go that much higher. Okay, yeah, because the bottom of the trees are kind of like something just very create so much amount of volume. Okay, yeah, and basically have that particular volume, it's kind of like something very difficult for a trees to climb that higher. Okay, yeah. So I think that nature is kind of like somebody chose a cylindrical shape in the trees, so that they meant to be survive and they meant to be get that much kind of like a something sunlight as they want. So mostly all the trees are kind of like have that particular cylindrical shape. Okay, yeah. But I found this thing only in Earth. I didn't really found this shape in universe. Yeah, basically wormhole, does wormhole has a kind of like a something cylindrical shape? Like basically if you went to the wormhole, that wormhole is kind of like a something, a tube which is actually cylindrical, which is actually connected from one universe to the another universe, or sorry, one part of universe to another part of universe. Not okay, yeah. The wormhole, the is not wormhole, yeah. That wormhole, yeah, what is that? Yeah, the wormhole, yeah, wormhole is exist in the real world. Yeah, it does exist in the real world. Yeah, it's actually exist in the kind of like a space and things like that. Like a black hole is exist, wormhole is also really exist. It's not kind of like a somebody hole. Okay, it's not kind of like a sucking up anything. It's a kind of like a somebody gateway from one universe to another universe. Sorry, one part of universe to the another part of universe, not one universe to another universe. No, I'm not really sure, but yeah, it's a kind of like a somebody gateway. Okay, yeah, but which is actually kind of like a create the cylindrical shape, na. Okay, so which is actually available in the nature, in the universe. Yeah, but besides the wormhole, I haven't really seen any kind of like a cylindrical shape. Am I seen any kind of like cylindrical shape in the universe? Am I seeing any kind of like a cylindrical shape in the universe? No, I think not. Probably. Yeah, yeah, I don't really seen it. Okay, yeah, maybe is there kind of like a trees in another planet? They might be have kind of like some cylindrical shaped trees, but I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure they are exist or not. So I think that that cylindrical shape is kind of like a something I seen on the trees, mostly on the Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've been talking. I just have to end here. All right. This is it. And thank you.